You're listening to Empowered to Lead, the Therapist Practice. I'm Lisa Catello, therapist, business coach, and your go-to for all things leadership and sustainable practice growth. This is your space for real talk, smart strategies, and grounded support to help you lead with confidence, work with intention, and build a business that actually works for you. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Empowered to Lead. I am Lisa Catello. I am a therapist, coach, group practice consultant, and today we are diving into something that shows up in almost every single practice owner that I talk to, even the ones who look incredibly confident on the outside. We are talking about people pleasing, and specifically how it quietly undermines your leadership, drains your energy, and keeps you working way harder than you need to. Before we go any further, I want you to know this is not a judgment space. People-pleasing makes complete sense, especially for therapists and group practice owners who care deeply about their teams and really want to create supportive working environments. And I am speaking as a people-pleaser. I just realized this week, it's taken that long for me to figure this out, that when I am overwhelmed and tired, I tend to be more of a people pleaser than when I'm energized and have balance in my life. It's so much easier for me to be assertive and clear when I am not feeling stressed. And you would almost think it would be the opposite, that I would be like, no way, man, I need to protect my boundaries. But this week really showed me that that is not true. And so as I'm speaking about what people-pleasing looks like in group practice leadership role, know that I am speaking from personal experience and also the things that have worked for me and that I have seen work for others as you step into assertive, clear leadership that protects your boundaries, your business, and the people who work for you. And when you are running a group practice, these instincts can get tangled up with your role as a leader. So the instinct to people please gets mixed up with who am I as a leader? How do I want to show up? And that's when things get messy. So we're going to take a grounded, compassionate look at what's really going on underneath our tendency to people please and why it's so common among group practice owners. And then how you can shift toward a steadier, more confident, assertive leadership style. And who doesn't want that? So what does people pleasing look like in group practice leadership? How does it show up? Because it's rarely a dramatic thing. It's usually small decisions that quietly snowball over time. Maybe you've agreed to a split that your numbers can't actually support, or you don't actually know what your numbers are telling you. You just want to keep them happy. Maybe you've avoided a conversation about late or incomplete notes because you don't want to stress anyone out, and you're not even really sure what you want it to look like. Or maybe you don't keep up on your notes all the time. So how can you enforce that for other people? Or maybe you've changed a policy because someone was unhappy, even though the original policy made complete sense for your practice. What's interesting is that most owners aren't actually trying to overgive. They are trying to prevent conflict. They're trying to be supportive. They're trying to keep the peace. But the unspoken truth is that people-pleasing and confident leadership just don't coexist well. One will always override the other. And so I want to talk about some of the deeper reasons why this pattern shows up. And this isn't to call you out. Maybe a little bit if you're feeling like this is something you really want to change, but also just to normalize it. You are not alone as a people pleaser. These dynamics are incredibly common, and they come, again, from a place of real care. So why are we prone to people pleasing? How does that show up? You undervalue your expertise and your value more than you realize. So many therapists turned owners don't actually see the full value of what they've built. You have invested time, money, emotional energy, a lot of risk into creating a group practice. But because you're comparing yourself to other practices or other more seasoned owners, or what you think is happening in another practice, you tell yourself you're not established enough to hold firmer boundaries or to raise fees. And this mindset chips away at your leadership confidence before you even start, or as you have gotten going and you're wanting to start growing. This erodes that confidence. You avoid conflict because it's uncomfortable. We are trained as therapists to be attuned, to extend empathy, and to reduce distress in our clients. And so when a conversation might lead to tension or disappointment, your nervous system goes, hey, no thanks, let's avoid that. I am a peacekeeper. I am somebody who wants to show empathy. I don't want conflict. And so even a small conflict, like addressing late notes or maybe unclear communication, I didn't really understand what you meant by this, that can trigger a disproportionate amount of discomfort. But avoiding the conversation doesn't make the problem disappear. It actually just means that you carry the emotional load instead of naming the issue directly, and the appropriate people owning the appropriate responsibility to clear this up. Another thing that happens is you don't want to let people down. This isn't a weakness. It's a reflection of your values. You care about your team. Some of you care so deeply about your team. You know them, they've been friends, or you've fostered their growth as a therapist and you want them to thrive. But when that instinct goes unchecked, it becomes over-accommodating. So now when I'm over-accommodating, I underlead. And so as you make adjustments for those people that you care so much about, you actually step away from being their leader. Another thing that happens, or a reason why we do this, is that you want to be liked. And again, this is a human response. And being liked doesn't always create safety or clarity. So people are looking to you to lead. You are the owner of the business. They want to know where you're going. They want you to be steady, consistent, and transparent. And that is what helps you move from being a people pleaser to being an effective leader. So if you are exercising people-pleasing leadership, you may already notice some of the costs that it has to you or your family. But let's talk about some of the costs, because sometimes they're hidden and not actually something that we're fully aware of. So the hard part about people-pleasing is that it feels like you are preserving harmony, but the long-term impact is actually the opposite. And so it starts to create cracks in your foundation of you and your business. Decisions get delayed because you're weighing every possible reaction of the people on your team instead of actually looking at what are the needs of the practice. And so this can be frustrating to you and also to the people who are working for you and waiting for those decisions. Expectations become unclear, and this leads to confusion and frustration amongst your team and internally. You take on more emotional labor than you should, and your role shifts from CEO to fixer to cleaner to all these things, and that can end up in resentment. You end up tired, stretched thin, mentally overloaded, and wondering why leadership feels so heavy. You may be starting to ask, why did I do this? This wasn't a great decision. I'm working harder than I was in private practice. Why am I doing this? And at the same time, your team doesn't have the structure, the consistency, or clarity that they actually need to feel secure and committed and to stay a while. People pleasing feels kind. And we know this, we tell our clients this, but what happens is people pleasing actually creates the exact instability that you're trying to avoid. So what does it look like to step out of people pleasing and into being a grounded, assertive leader, the person that you want to be, without becoming rigid or harsh or aggressive? This is about clarity, not about control. When you move from being a people pleaser to being clearly the leader of your group practice, you are getting clear on boundaries and you are providing a space where everybody knows what to expect. You, your team, your admin, your clients, they know who you are, what you want, and what this group practice is moving towards. One of the most helpful starting points is to get clear on your boundaries. So what does that look like? Here's some questions to consider. What are you available for? What are you willing to provide for your team? And on the opposite side of that, what are you not available for? What isn't aligned with your role anymore? So let's say you have 5 to 10 therapists on your team, and you used to answer the phone, you used to meet with them all regularly, used to be available, open door, and now you're realizing you can't get anything done because everybody keeps walking in and you love it. You love that environment, and yet it's actually holding you back from growing your practice. You're not able to have that space and time to vision and to work on the business because you're working in the business, not in seeing clients so much anymore, but in being everything and everyone to those who work for you. How do you want communication to work within your practice? So just use that example of like open door. Maybe you choose office hours, or maybe you set a certain time for lunch or something like that. And then you also want to look at, when do people need your input and when do they not? Some of us take people pleasing to be the next level of a little bit of micromanaging and feeling like it's care, but it's actually something that maybe we should remove our hands from. One of my favorite things when I'm working with clinical clients is to say, like, boundaries are not this brick wall. It's actually not a hard no, and you can't cross this line, whichever metaphor you want to use. They're actually like a picket fence. So you can see over them, you can see through them. There's a gate. It is very clear about what is mine and what is yours. And they are the structure that makes relationships smoother and more predictable. The next piece is money, because wow, does people pleasing show up here? Your splits, the fees that you're charging to clients, your raises, whether that's for your therapist or for yourself, your policies, these shouldn't be guided by guilt or by trying to keep everybody happy. They need to be grounded in sustainability and the long-term health of your practice. It is not unkind to say, here's what the business needs. I actually want to repeat that again and slow it down, because I think a lot of us need to absorb this in order to step into effective leadership as a group practice owner. It is not unkind when you say, here is what the business needs. That is leadership. Let that sink in for a sec. Saying no is another skill that comes, it's a little uncomfortable at first, but it actually gets easier with practice. And if you are like me, there are times when I say no, and then I go back around, I'm like, actually, maybe I can do this, or I say no because I know that's what I need or the business needs, and then I feel so guilty. But remember that being clear is being kind. And so you don't have to justify or over-explain or come back around. A short, steady, values-aligned no is enough. No, I am not able to provide that. Because actually what happens then when you say no, it frees you up to say yes, and to say that authentically and not create resentment, and also to provide clarity. And finally, stay connected. Leadership isn't about distancing yourself from your team. So just because you're not going to be doing people pleasing anymore doesn't mean you don't have connection with your team. It doesn't mean you have to become this big boss or remove yourself personally or investment-wise in your team. It really is about being present, honest, and steady, having that consistency, which includes hard conversations, which actually become easier when you are confident in this is what the business needs, this is how we want to proceed. You can actually come to your team with curiosity rather than fear or insecurity. And when you trust yourself to handle whatever comes up because you have this knowledge, you're clear on what you need and what the business needs, it becomes a lot easier to have a challenging conversation. So every episode, I try to leave you with a leadership challenge. And it's something small that you can put into action right away to build confidence and clarity in your role as an empowered leader in your group practice. So I'm going to encourage you to choose one of the following challenges and consider which one fits best for you and your level of people pleasing. So here's number one. Say no to something you would normally say yes to out of guilt or habit. So as you look ahead at the coming week, you go through it and you notice that you're saying yes to something because I feel bad, or that's just the way I am. I say yes to everything. Try saying no. Another challenge you could accept is to hold a boundary that you've been avoiding. So what is something that you have felt like you either said needed to say no to or yes to in order to protect you or your business? Hold that boundary. Another way that you could do this is make a decision without asking for external validation or team approval. You know that decision that's been waiting to be made. Make it this week. The last option would be revisit one area of your practice. Maybe it's your fees, your therapist splits, or your policies, and ask, is this decision coming from my leadership role and who I want to be as a leader, or from people pleasing? And I'm going to say only choose one of those, not all four. We want to start growing leadership skills or supplementing our leadership skills through small intentional shifts, not massive overnight changes. So if this episode brought up thoughts, insights, or that, yes, this is me feeling, you are absolutely not alone. People pleasing is incredibly common among group practice owners, and it's something that you can shift with awareness, support, and practice. If you are wanting help strengthen your leadership, that's exactly the work that we do both within the Group Practice Connection and in individual coaching through the Group Practice Network. The membership is a supportive space where other owners who want to lead like you do with confidence, clarity, and a little more ease get together. We support each other. There's resources. There is verbal support because we're chatting in between our calls. And then there's 3 calls a month where we are there to help you step into that empowered leadership role. You can learn more at my website at grouppracticenetwork.ca. Thank you for being here with me today. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you in the next episode of Empowered to Lead, where we hear from a couple of people who have done their group practice as a partnership and have implemented some pretty healthy boundaries in there. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you. I will talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for hanging out with me on Empowered to Lead, the therapist practice. I hope you're walking away with something that you can put into action, because leadership isn't about doing more, it's about leading with purpose. If you're ready for deeper support, I'd love to see you inside the Group Practice Connection. my monthly membership where Canadian therapists like you get coaching, community, and the tools to build a business that actually supports your life. You can check it out at grouppracticenetwork.ca. The link's in the show notes. And hey, don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next. We're building something great here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it.